I don't hear anything now.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're going live now.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I gotta mute my speaker here so we don't feedback. And here we go. Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with life coach Linda Armstrong. Today is Friday, June the 14th, 2019. It is 4 p.m. in New York, 1 p.m. in Los Angeles, 9 p.m. in London, and 6 a.m. in Sydney, Australia. But wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And I'm happy, Linda, for a number of reasons, not the least of which because you know how it is whenever we get an email from a listener talking about how they like being a listener. We got one of those earlier today from a very enthusiastic listener named Michael, who lives in London. And he was raging on about how wonderful he thought the show is. He says he's been looking around at podcasts for a long time, and we are his number one favorite. I thought, wow, how cool is that? So I just had to share that and say thank you. Oh, also, interestingly enough, he's been listening very carefully to the fact that we are doing The Grass is Greener. We're in the process of developing that audio play, and apparently he does music, so he was also auditioning to be our music composer. So I reached back to him, and we'll find out what he's got. Maybe he's got what we need. Who knows?
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah. And then the other big news, the other thing that's got me really excited is that within the past hour, Alyx and PJ and I got together and we finalized who we want for our cast members for the audio play for the Grass is Greener. Now, we haven't reached out to anybody yet, so I can't make any announcements about who it is. But I will tell you, it was really a difficult process because we had so much talent, so many good voices, so many people who really knew how to portray an act, a role, and so forth. And I mean, how do you say no, right? I mean, what we're actually going to say is, yes, we want you. We just don't have the part for you right now, but we're going to write a part for you. That's what we're going to actually do in many cases because there were so many good actors. But we did finally decide who we want, and I'm going to start reaching out to the people we have in mind for our leads after this podcast, after this episode. So things are getting exciting. They're really exciting. So that's how my day's been going. How's your day been going?
My day's going pretty good. I'm excited. Look, we're wearing the same color today.
How about that? Yeah, we're both wearing a kind of a light blue.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very communication color, right?
Is it? I didn't know that. I don't really know what the meanings of the colors are.
Throat chakra.
Okay.
Light blue, like what we're wearing today.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that makes sense. So good. Yeah. Well, we're waiting for. Actually, we do have people filtering in to watch, but while we're waiting for people to come in, I didn't really have a particular topic in mind for today, mainly because I was just so excited. Maybe the topic is excitement. I don't know. I'm not sure how you turn that into a topic, but it's just a feel-good day. So often, you know how I start a Friday podcast with you. So often it's like, oh, I'm glad we're at the end of the week. You know, I'm glad the weekend is here. Not today. Today it's like, oh, I'm full of energy. I'm ready to go. Let's do something. I don't know what, but let's do something. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe the topic again is energy, because that's definitely your wheelhouse is the power of energy and how connected you are and how we're all learning to be connected to energy. But do you have any thoughts? What do you think about for a topic?
Well, I think that's pretty cool because you're demonstrating for us what it feels like, what it looks like to be in such a high vibe where you're like, it feels like you're going faster than you can actually keep up with right now because your energy is so out there. Like you're already making the calls you need to make, even though you're right here with me.
That's right. Yes. Well, literally, as I was talking there, I had to mentally slow myself down because, like many people, I have a tendency to speed up with my talking whenever you get really, really, really excited, which doesn't work for a podcast too well. So, yeah, I was conscious of that, and I am conscious of that. And it does feel great. It feels good to be in that high vibrational state. It's like, wow.
Well, you know what's fun about that, too, is because my June energy update was all about how the pieces start coming together.
Of course it was. Your updates always match our shows. I don't know how you do that, but they always match.
Because they pick up on the energy of the collective, you know.
Okay.
And some people might feel that more than others, you know, and some of us go through a little bit of a dip. Like for me, I'm a bit on the dip side of everything coming together, although I know that everything is coming together.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's
Yep.
just, it's awakening, right? We're traveling this up and down kind of roller coaster.
Right.
And those high moments are great. And the cool thing is that when you know what this energy feels like, what you're feeling today, you know what it feels like, right? You can maybe even create some kind of trigger for yourself so that when you're not in that energy, you can bring yourself to it.
Yes. In fact, I have today's pattern. The way that what the day went for me is a good pattern to remember, because for a large portion of the day, I was helping Louise with her gardening maintenance business, because there were a number of last minute emergencies and things that didn't quite work right, and we had to kind of make it up as we went along, that kind of thing. And that's the kind of scenario that can be tense. It can be highly stressful, and it didn't feel that way at all. And we hadn't even gotten together to do our meeting yet. That's what's so cool about it. It's like I was excited in anticipation of the meeting before we'd even decide who our cast was.
Right. So you are already stepping into the energy, and the energy is just carrying you through to that next step.
Yes.
I just released a video today.
Of course you did.
It kind of it's talking about feeling your way through your spiritual awakening. So, feeling what's right for you and carrying that energy through. Because when you're in the energy that you're talking about right now, that you're in right now today, that will take you so easily and quickly to the next steps. But then other things come up and that can pull us away from it. So it's really just about, and I always talk about getting good at realizing when you're being pulled off course into these lower energies, which are most of the time just something that you're purging, that you're letting go of.
Right.
You're feeling it as you do that. And some of them are a bit stubborn. They'll keep showing up. So you want to be able to go into them, but not get stuck there, and know that where you intend to be is in that high vibe. Do whatever it takes to get yourself there. So I was saying maybe you can make yourself a trigger today that whatever that might be. Like maybe it's like the gorilla on top of the world kind of a thing, or I don't know, some kind of a trigger where you're anchoring it to this vibration that you're in today, so that you can be like, oh, you know what, I'm going to bring myself back to that energy, if that's the trigger, or whatever that is.
Because when we were dealing with the emergencies earlier today, and there were like 3 or 4 of them, there were a couple points where normally it would be a time of, oh God, what are we going to do? We got to get this done now. We're running out of time and all this kind of thing, getting into that downward spiral. And I could tell that potential was there, but I just didn't go there. The energy that I was feeling was so high, it just didn't even let me. My mind wouldn't even go there for a minute. And yet, ordinarily, my mind will snap going right there. So what's the trigger that made the difference there? I don't know what the trigger is, but it's a great question.
I'm saying create a trigger based on this.
So basically, physically create one, like, every time I feel that, squeeze my shoulder or something.
Yeah, or whatever you want to associate to, because it's your own game, right? We all play our own game. We all decide what's in our matrix. Right. So whatever you think would be really cool for you to anchor in this enthusiasm that you have right now,
So it could be an idea, it could be a word, or
I would make it a physical thing. Like maybe you tap your third eye 3 times. Maybe you do the snapping thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you I don't know. It's so that, and then every time you go into this elation kind of energy, you do that trigger again. So you want to reinforce the trigger.
Right.
That it becomes normal that when I do this, whatever it is, then it brings that energy in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be for you. You'd have to kind of make up your own.
I kind of said it arbitrarily, but just reaching around and rubbing my own shoulder or rubbing the upper forearm feels good. Maybe I'll just go with it.
Do it. Go with that. Right.
It's
whatever it is you want to do,
It's a comfort thing,
Yeah. So, okay. So where do we want to go with that? So that's really cool. So you want it, so you could know, like you're getting, when you dip, you can feel it. Right. So the thing that we need to get good at, that we want to get good at, is to not stay stuck in those lower energies and just find things that bring us up and out and into this other space. because it's like, I want to get stuck in the ego space with all the fear, doubt, and worry, or do I want to stay in this soul space?
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
almost like, sometimes I like to think of it as like, do I want to stay stuck in this third dimensional energy, which is made out of struggle? Or do I want to be in the fifth dimension energy where everything just flows exactly how I think it's there, right? That's what that energy is all about. So you can be like, oh, I'm 5D today, you know, and then, you know, you dip and you're like, oh man, I'm back down here again. What happened? Yeah.
But that's where you
But
go.
don't be surprised. Yeah, I was really in it a couple of days ago. Now I'm not so bad right now. I'm okay. I'm like kind of neutral. So it's good when you get yourself into the neutral, because then you can just be in present time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you have anything like that for yourself, that like you were describing for me, like you set up this anchor when you're feeling really good?
Physical trigger. Well, actually, I have more of a verbal trigger, which is I just say love, love, love 3 times. Love, love, love. Because that reminds me to just bring myself into that energy. That energy that I teach about, that that's the energy that's the energy that we are. I mean, that's the ultimate energy, right? So we want to live through that energy, and and release these lower energies as much as we can, you know. But it's not like you ignore them. You got to feel it.
Sure.
You know? And maybe even you just have to say, well, what does this feel like? Like, what is this bringing up for me? Usually it's some kind of emotion that was built out of a past experience, or some kind of resentment or rejection or shame or judgment or things like that. So if you can kind of see like, well, what does this feel like? And just be with it in a kind of like in an objective way. Like you're that objective observer and you're looking at this lower energy that you're in. You're like, okay, so what is this? What is this giving me the opportunity to release?
Mm-hmm.
So then you can kind of like, you know, a friend of mine would say, shake the magic 8 ball, right?
Okay.
Right? So if you could shake the magic 8 ball, what would it tell you? What is this about right now? Oh, this is about how I always felt like blah, blah, blah when I was younger. And I always either avoided that because of this, you know, like where you find you know, you usually something will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask, and, you know, ask spirit, ask your angels, like, okay, show me what it is. What is this? What is this wanting to show me right now? Because I need to look at it. In my mind, I say, love it, and then let it go.
I like that approach, because whenever in the past for myself, I have tried to ask myself, what's this thing? What is this thing that I'm trying to feel? What is it? What's it trying to tell me? Very often I don't get a clear answer. But when I remember, well, I can still just go through the process of trying to release it, even if I don't really know what it is. That actually is very successful for me. Not every time, but a lot of the time. It's surprising how often it succeeds for me. So, I mean, that to me is reassuring. It means I don't actually have to know what the real message was each time. I can ask, but I don't have to know in order to get past it.
And maybe it's as simple as saying, you know what, I'm just going to love myself, no matter what this is, what it's going on, what, you know, what do I, you know, maybe you need to forgive yourself for something and you just can't quite see it, you know, so you just like, you know, I'm just going to love it. I'm just going to, maybe a lot of times these lower energies just need to be seen, you know. It's like, all right, obviously there's something going on or I wouldn't be here right now. Right. So I see you, I welcome you, I love you, and you're free to go.
And lower energies often get described as if they were external, but really they all connect internally, don't they? I mean, they're our energies that we built up through some kind of repetitive thought process or focus on something or other. I mean, they're not purely external, are they?
They're, in my mind, they're all internal.
They're all internal, yeah.
You may think it's something happening out there, but you're the one who welcomes it in, right? Because the energy we put out is the energy we bring back. I mean,
right.
It's the law of attraction show, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So whatever that is that seems to be out there that is triggering you has to come from within.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you know, that's it right there. It's like really owning all parts of yourself, loving all parts of yourself, and allowing those things that you maybe are judging yourself for. Because if you're judging someone else, there's a part of whatever that is that's within you that is also being judged, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we often forget that, don't we? When we're in the midst of judging somebody else, we forget that it rebounds on ourselves.
Yeah. Or we go into, there's no way that's a part of me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. That can't be me, no.
But there's some aspect of it, and
Just standing behind me.
a lot of times is the aspect of it is something that you deny for yourself.
Mm.
You don't appreciate when you see someone else living a certain way or doing something a certain way, and so you want to judge them.
Mm-hmm.
But in some ways, maybe it's because you deny yourself to be that.
Yeah.
Like, say someone who is able to receive, like so easily, just receive. Most of us, it's hard to receive, right? So when we see someone who's always receiving easily, and they have more and more come to them so that they can receive it, we're like, what the God, what is going on here? Like, and you want to like not like that person because they're doing everything you want to do or something like that.
Well, plus it's disorienting. I mean, how could it, shouldn't this all play out fairly so that everybody gets a fair share? That's what the feeling is when you're in that place. And yet that's not the way it's playing out.
Yeah, but I don't know about this thing about fair share, because I mean, we all create. Some people have a purpose.
I'm just saying that's the feeling. I don't mean that it is actually how the world works. I'm just saying that's what I feel like. Well, it should be. Everybody gets equal, right?
Well, but it comes down to, but actually we should look at it this way. Well, if they could do it, that means it's possible for me to do it.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe in my past, I might have resented people for having things be so easy for them. I'm sure I must have. I can't recall anything specific right now. Mm-hmm. There's one person I think used to get on my nerves for something like that, like back in high school. But really, I'm just denying myself from having that same energy where things come easy to me, right?
That's it.
But I didn't know that at the time. It's much better to blame her and then talk about it with all my friends, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Think about high school. That's what it was all. That's all we did, right?
That's where life comes back at you with the 2x4. Like, so you're putting this out to the universe. Bam, here it comes back to you again.
That's right.
Rebound. Yeah. Reflecting it back to you.
Yeah. So now it's all about awareness, right? We're awakening. We're becoming more aware. We're expanding our consciousness, so that we can hold all kinds of elements of experience and see it and know that we have a part in it. Mm-hmm. Because there's no way it'll be in your awareness if you're not a part of it. Obviously, you're a part of it because it's there, it's happening, and you're seeing it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I love about the Ho'oponopono teachings with Dr. Hugh Len, and Joe Vitale really brought Dr. Hugh Len out into the mainstream. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So because, and he would always say, you ever notice that when something's happening and you think it's wrong or it's a problem, do you ever notice that you're there?
Yes.
You're there. You know about it. It's showing up. Even if you heard about it from someone else, it's showing up in your in your energy field. And then we get back to the matrix, right? That's right. We're all creating this stuff, and sometimes we don't want to take responsibility for things.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to say to myself, and I say it in jest, is, "Oh, geez, I can't get away with anything with myself."
Yeah,
because it all just keeps coming back to me.
Yeah.
It is a good training thing, though. When you become aware of all this stuff is working that way, that everything that you're putting out is coming back to you in some form, it does kind of remind you, okay, well, it is important what I think about. Even if for this particular moment in time, I'm not trying to deliberately attract something, or I'm not trying to deliberately make something happen, it still matters what I'm focusing on, because it still comes back to me. So I want to be a little bit careful about what it is I focus on, what it is I give my attention to.
Right, because we're putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is, it's contributing to the collective. So we want to put more and more good stuff out there.
Not to mention coming back to us.
That's why the more we work on ourselves and clear these things that pull us off track for ourselves, we're actually helping to clear it for the collective. Everything goes out. It's all connected. That's
an interesting thing. I hadn't thought about that way, but you're right. Because if we're doing a clearing for ourselves, it's going to clear that energy regardless of where it's in play.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at all the limiting beliefs that we bought into, say, about money.
Yeah.
Money is evil. Where'd that come from?
Mhm.
We weren't born with that, yet it was put into us.
Right, right.
Either by our own parents, but not even that, by the collective, by all of those voices that came before us that knocked, money.
Well, that's been a theme not just within spiritual or LOA circles. That's been a theme within psychology circles and anthropology, and the various social sciences, about how there is generational learning. In
Yeah.
general, generational learning, each generation getting smarter than the previous one, each one accumulating all the knowledge that the previous generations learned, and then adding their own, and just an ongoing building. Talk about momentum. I mean, that's the biggest momentum of all right there.
And it's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
It's
right?
all of it, yeah.
It's collective.
Yeah.
Let's choose a card.
Okay.
Okay, 22 yin yang upside down. Did we get yin yang last week?
We had a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if it was last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this, I don't remember like how it came last time. Oh look, we're almost there. We went to 21. I don't know if it was upright or upside down, but it's upside down now. So
I don't remember. I can't tell you.
What that is. All right. So it says in the reverse. Okay, this card reverse reveals a yang cycle, which is one of active, outgoing energy. This time calls for a more logical approach to things, but the logic needs to be applied to purposeful action. This cycle is often marked by creativity and new beginnings, sometimes with significant outer change. Let yourself apply more forceful energy to the task at hand and take advantage of this highly charged yang time. I'm pretty sure we had it the other way the last time I read it.
I think you're right. Yeah.
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 That's cool because that's what you're experiencing right now.
It is. Yeah. That's mirroring it exactly. And it's also a reminder to me. I mean, I don't know what the phrases they used there, but the phrase reminded me of the phrase inspired action, taking inspired action. You're inspired to take an action and you just go with it, regardless of whether or not it's, and that, by the way, that's exactly how we did our final casting. I mean, we all went in with the three of us each had our own lists, and the list had some similarities and some differences. And on the ones where there were differences, by the time we were done, very often there was a fourth candidate who came to the fore that none of us had labeled, but we went back and replayed callback audition tapes and so forth, and we realized, you know what, we really should be picking this person, and so we did that. That was like an inspired action. We just went with what was working at that moment in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is cool. And it's fun because it's also really easy. I mean, you can't really have a whole lot of resistance going on in order to make that effectively work. It gets in the way, but there wasn't any. All three of us were just like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. That seems good to me too. Let's go with that. Yeah.
Because you were all just riding that energy.
We were. Yeah, we are. We still are.
I hear some funky noise every now and then. I don't know if it's coming from my mic or yours.
Well, let's switch over to headphones and see if that makes a difference. I'll go to headphone and see if that helps at your end. I'm not hearing it. I heard it a couple times at my end, but not too much. But see if that helps with me putting headphones on.
Almost like a scraping sound or something like that. Is that what you heard?
Yeah, I guess kind of. I mean, what happens is we're using the Zoom platform to record this, and Zoom has some excellent filtering to essentially block out background noise or unwanted noise. But it's not 100% perfect. Nobody has 100% perfect filtering. And so you're seeing some of that, or hearing, I should say, some of that kind of sliding in. So like, if I'm moving a chair around, or, you're sliding a card on a table, it tends to start to come through. It tries to filter it. It filters it part way and turns it into that kind of slurpy, whatever kind of sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying out my mic again today. So if it gets a little too weird, I'll just unplug it.
Okay. Which one are you using now?
I'm using the Blue Nessie.
The Blue Nessie. Okay. All right. It
works the best so far, but
Mm-hmm. Well, you have so much energy going on. It's no wonder you have trouble with microphones.
Yeah.
But yin and yang is an interesting card to come up, especially in the inverted, because of the yang. The yang, is that the way they're presenting yin and yang, that yang is like almost like an external energy. That's not what they said, but it sounded kind of like
more like the male energy, the aggressive
male energy. Okay.
The outward, yeah, I guess, because, and the female's more the receptive energy.
Okay. Okay.
Softer energy.
Interesting then that in the inverted, the emphasis is on the so-called male, the yang energy.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know what matters with inverted or not inverted.
I don't know.
The way that this deck is, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I'm
haven't
not sure.
studied yin yang, so I'm not one to really speak on it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's all right. I just thought it was interesting. That's all. Why the yang side? But
well, the yang side, because it's more of an outgoing, taking action. It's more maybe the giving, and the female side is more the receiving, the softer, more internal stuff. At least as far as I know.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good explanation. I can go with that. So, all right. Well, and like I said,
anyway.
Yeah, and it does fit what's going on with the audio play, so it makes total sense. Probably makes sense too from the perspective of at least one or more of the listeners as well, as you have pointed out on numerous occasions. The cards are not just for one person; they're for large swaths of people. And by the way, I got to mention something else too. This is something that I've been noticing this week. Since we went to doing one show per day, 5 days a week instead of 2 shows a day, the numbers of listeners per episode has kind of been sorting itself out. I think probably we're putting out so many episodes that people just couldn't keep up. So now we're finding more and more people can listen to either every episode or most of the episodes, whereas before perhaps they were getting a little bit I don't know, put out by how many episodes there were they couldn't keep up.
Right.
And as a result, we're seeing a nice kind of a gentle ongoing surge in listenership, so that right now we're averaging, for when you normally measure these things over a month. So the stuff that we did a month ago is averaging about 275 listeners per episode, which is definitely a high for us. Just a couple months ago, the average was around 180. So it's been a nice upward swoop there, which is good.
It's funny. I actually I have one client who came from the show.
Uh-huh.
He always says, I can never keep up with them. I'm behind like a week.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully we made her job a little bit easier by going just to 1 per day.
Okay. I picked another card, but I see that someone wrote there, Love Renegade. That's her YouTube name here.
Yeah, that's Jamie, actually.
Yeah. She says, I was just talking about the value of neutrality with a friend. It's digesting. So I forget what we were saying about that. That was a little bit earlier.
Yeah, that was early in the conversation. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I was saying I was kind of in this neutral space, like right now, just kind of there, because you were on this really high.
Right.
I was saying how a couple of days ago I was on a really low.
Yep. Well,
we're all a constant work in progress. We're navigating.
Neutrality is a good word. The other word that I like that kind of feeds the same energy, so to speak, is, what's the word? It means not paying attention to, not ignoring, but more like not giving energy to it. I can't remember what the word is. Of course, I bring it up and now I can't remember. But the idea of just letting go of, I just don't really care about that. It's not important to me. It's kind of a different take on neutrality. And for me, anyway, I find that when I take it that way, it's easier for me to avoid getting into little traps, because we all have our little traps that we fall into, right? Things that we have a tendency to jump into.
Maybe that's just demonstrating, just being able to sit in your heart space and in that energy of love, where we're not judging or being affected or being triggered by someone, like being more accepting of even our own sometimes not so good situations.
Yeah.
Because really, you have to get that place where you can say, this is exactly how it's supposed to be.
Yes.
That's what I'm working on. Because, if our soul, I believe our soul is guiding us, right? We have this guidance, we have this team supporting us. So rather than fight things, which make it stay longer, that's that neutral place. But maybe you could look at it, maybe the way you're saying it is you're just kind of sitting in that heart space, and it's like, all right, so that's going on. I don't have to let it take me out of my heart.
Right.
I can observe and be here and not lose myself to it. right?
The word I actually had in mind, I finally realized it. The word was disinterested. And I apply it only to those situations where I know if I go down this particular rabbit hole, I'm going to be miserable. But it's a rabbit hole I go down regularly. So what I choose instead is to not be interested in it, to take my interest away from it. So I stop paying attention to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really, you're just pivoting, right?
That's a pivot, right? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. This is a nice card. It's the Swan Queen, transformation, intuition, and patience.
Ooh, very nice. Nice illustration.
That's funny because I was talking to my own coach earlier today, and I'm like, well, sometimes I'm just losing patience. And she's like, yeah, but Linda, everything's happening exactly how it's supposed to be. I'm like,
It's nice to have people to remind us of these things.
well, you need that, because
We do.
even though I teach a lot, so many things, and I know better, but with my own stuff, it's not
Sure.
always so easy. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what I was talking about. I'm like, yeah, you can get really sunk into stuff, but the thing is, the more aware you become, the more you notice it.
Mhm.
Like you're saying right now, and you're like, you know what? I don't really need to repeat that story. I don't really need to go and sit in that energy because nothing good comes out of it.
Right.
So if you can't just flip to a higher vibe, at least we can be neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, you know what? I'm just going to be in this kind of like okay place, and I'm going to allow spirit to just move me. And it's always giving it up to my higher guidance, who I know knows better than me what's coming next, or how to deal with a certain situation. So rather than stay stuck in a low energy where I can't receive that guidance, I'm not a vibrational match to it. It's going to be hard for it to come in. They're going to have to like hit me over the head with it if I'm not hearing it right. So I'd rather be in a space where that connection is more open and flowing, where I can hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're describing there is a person who very much wants to have a peaceful life and is trying to remember how to do it. And I can remember a time earlier this week with my wife. I mean, she was in a really rough place. She knew perfectly well what she needed to do. She knew that what she was focusing on was working against her, and she couldn't get out of it. She just, she was just in that place where she couldn't get out of it. So she brought it up with me, and I just reminded her of certain basic concepts. And oh yeah, of course, it was like a little nudge, a little tap on the shoulder. Hey, by the way, remember this is where vibration is over here. This is where the good feeling stuff is.
Right. And sometimes all it takes is just getting grounded again, because we're getting too scattered with our thoughts to be able to be in our space and our place.
Mm-hmm.
So, going outside, distracting yourself in some way, barefoot on the ground, okay, I need the ground, eating helps ground. Just distracting yourself into another space,
right.
Then you can get that flow going once again.
I love the idea too that I think a lot of people can benefit from your idea, not just yours, but the idea that you follow, that you are guided. You have like your inner being is looking out for you. You have the whole team looking out for you. That's a concept I think a lot of people can really use, because very often we feel like, well, I can't just let go because no one will be steering the boat anymore. And okay, well, now we have a way of knowing that the boat's being steered. And so it can help us to relax, to know that. A lot of people can benefit from that idea, I think.
And I think another part that might help with that too is that even if you can't grasp it, that we have this support in spirit, that there's, in a body, out of a body, that there's spirit, there's energy all around us. We just can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we think about how we know that there's a huge universe out there, and there's all these stars, and there's all these other planets, like it's so big that we can't even measure it. Why do we want to get locked into this one way of being, or not allow us to think, well, maybe I do have some kind of support. Maybe there is energy I can't see.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there is some inner force out there in the universe that can actually move me to my place to be, right?
That's how we get into the pattern of having, what do they call them, serendipitous experiences. Things just kind of pop up like, whoa, how did that happen? And then a little while later, whoa, how did that happen? They just kind of seem to happen. And then you start getting enough of those together, you say to yourself, well, yeah, maybe I really am. Maybe there is like a higher power guiding me. Maybe there is an actual plan going on here.
No, that's funny because you remind me of Sonia Choquette. She's a psychic medium, and she's got all kinds of courses and things that she does a lot of stuff with Hay House and with the Shift Network.
Mm.
She has a video, and I'm sure her YouTube channel is probably just her name, Sonia Choquette. I might have seen this before, but she has this video where she's going about her day and like things are getting in the way, and she's got this angel that's following her, catching her keys when they fall and slipping them in her bag, and calling the taxi for her, and like all these different things where she's like unaware that this angel is doing all this stuff, right?
Right.
Things just turn out perfectly by the end of it.
Yep.
I love the video. It's a great
That's a good one. I like that. Just the way you're describing that. It sounds like a very good one.
Try and find that link next time when I'm going to read this card, then I'll go maybe try and find that link while you're talking about whatever I just.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
So we're going to do the Swan Queen in the, in the right side up position. So it says Swan Queen glides your way, and the Swan Queen. I can't even speak.
Take two.
Okay, get back in my body. All right. The Swan Queen glides your way and asks that you look at your reflection in the events of your life. Ooh, we were talking about that before, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gives you the ability to see the beauty that has transformed your life from ignorance to wisdom. The Swan Queen lets you know that it's time to go within and seek the answers in your own intuition. Don't look outside yourself for answers now. The true power lies reflected in the still waters within you. Now is the moment to meditate and ask for a vision. The power of psychic perception is inherent in you, and the Swan Queen will help you to dive deep into your query to find the answers that you seek. This is also a reminder to allow time to transform ideas into reality. Nothing happens overnight. Okay, cool. But really, we all have psychic abilities. We just don't, a lot of us don't know it. And the more that you open to that, of course, the more you open to it and the more it develops and comes in. And, if you feel like you don't hear your intuition, you just don't know that you're hearing it. You have to maybe learn that. But just putting your awareness on, intuitive will make you be more intuitive. Do you hear that noise? It's like
so that just went bonkers for a minute there. I'm not sure what that was.
Okay. It's almost like there's another person on the line making noise, Okay. So maybe there is. We just don't know about it. Okay.
Well, you mentioned the idea of psychic ability and everyone having that. That's a concept that I resisted for a long, long time. And it has taken me a lot of little tiny baby steps to accept on a relatively deep level that, I do have a psychic ability. And I may not be as in touch with it as many are, but at least I've become in touch to some degree compared to where I was, say, 10, 20 years ago. It's a huge improvement. So I guess I mentioned that because there are probably listeners who have been through the same kind of thing I've been, where I felt like I was just, that can't be, no way that I'm psychic. There's no way that I have that ability. And yet as time goes on, I've learned that, I do tend to pick stuff up. I don't necessarily know what it is when I'm getting it. I don't necessarily have the wherewithal, the presence of mind to say, I just picked this thing up and I'm going to tell you about it just in case it really is proving out to be something. That rarely happens for me just because I don't have a lot of confidence in it yet. But as time goes on, I am getting more and more confident about stuff that comes to me. So, yeah.
So let's talk about that, because can you say why you didn't think that you could have these abilities? Do you know what that might be?
Not really. I mean, if you asked me to pinpoint it, I'd probably be just sitting here just shaking my head for a while. I think it was just kind of a societal kind of a doubt. I grew up in a time where everything was all about logic and reason, so I bought into logic and reason, and that was how everything worked. And plus, I had a distrust of religion when I was growing up, so that kind of added to it. I think I just had bought into the idea of everything is five senses. That's all it is.
Right. I found the link and I put it in the YouTube comments section.
Oh, okay.
The link to Sonia Choquette's, maybe I should say that. Write it down. Sonia Choquette angel video.
I'm not actually seeing it yet. Hopefully it'll pop up pretty quick here, but I'm not seeing it yet.
Okay, because maybe there's.
Okay, I see your line that says Sonia Choquette angel video. I just don't see the link.
Oh, it should be above that one.
No, I'm not getting it.
I'll put it in one more time.
Okay. Yeah, because I'll also make sure that I'll pick it up and plug it into the description for the podcast too, so all of our podcast listeners can pick it up as well.
All right. So yeah, I put that in again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. But the whole thing about being psychically connected is I've become more and more attuned to it, I guess you'd say. More and more accepting of it. I think that's probably a better way of saying it. More and more accepting of it. I think there's a part of me that still wants to control it, and that never gets me anywhere. So I have to just kind of sit back and let stuff come and be whatever it is. So I'm kind of in the phase right now where stuff still shows up randomly, and I never really know when it's going to show up. But like, oh wow, I was just thinking about that, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, lots of stuff like that happens and people don't realize it's they're psychically connecting or they're feeling it in the energy field. Like how many times are you thinking about something and then someone else mentions it somewhere within that day or something like that?
Yep.
Or you're thinking about someone, next thing you know, that they email you the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that stuff is just you connecting to this energy in the field. It's a psychic ability.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they, I think I don't know who does it, but there are things out there where they prove remote viewing, you know? Yeah. There was even, what was his name? Rob Lowe and his sons did this show on, I don't know if it was on E or one of those cable networks. And he would be like solving mysteries and things like that. And they did a whole show on that remote viewing, and they were remotely seeing what was going on in the space that the brother was at or that Rob Lowe was at. And they had these people who work in that field assisting them and monitoring the energy. It was really cool.
How do you portray that in a video though? I mean, because that's not something
they were watching the person who's not at the location where the other one is. And the people at the other location, they had video in both places. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. So it's like a remote camera kind of a thing. Okay. Yeah. Remote camera watching the remote viewing,
Right.
I forget how they did. Maybe he was writing things down and just connecting to that space and then seeing what comes to him and writing down what comes to him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And then the stuff that was coming, and they don't know anything till like afterwards, and they bring the two groups together and they compare notes on it, and they're like blown away. Oh my God, right?
Well, one of the things you've talked about a lot, and others on the show talk about too. My other co-hosts who are life coaches and so forth talk about how you'll get something, you'll get some message, some idea, some meaning. And you'll say, well, that can't possibly connect to anything, but I'll just say it anyway. And then it proves to connect to something.
Yeah.
I've heard that enough from you guys that I say to myself, wow, there really is something going on there.
Right. It's like when you allow yourself to do, I mean, it's like when I told you about my experience with the mediumship, and I'm like in this place with all these mediums. I'm like, what did I sign up for? I'm not.
Right. That was a great story.
I'm there. So I'm going with the program and I'm doing this stuff. And luckily the people that were there, because everybody wants to help each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
They see me seeing stuff like that, or sense me or feel me, whatever. And they're like, okay, what did you just see? You just saw something. What was it? I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. In my mind, I'm not saying it out loud, but I'm like, I can't tell them what I just saw. Like I'm having this internal thing because this was.
Sorry about that. I got to kill that.
There was a couple of years ago, so I'm like, I wasn't so easily going to just go there.
Yeah, sure.
And then I'm like, all right. They're like, doesn't matter. Just say it. It's no big deal. I'm like, all right, well, this is what I saw this and I felt like this. And the person who I'm reading for is like, exactly. It's my grandmother's house. It was her pool. I'm like, no way. Are you kidding me? So when you let yourself be, and then I signed up, I did that course three or 4 years in a row. Every time I still felt totally out of my whatever you call that, because I don't consider myself a medium, but I can tap into energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really that much different, just tapping into the energy. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel my sister when she's around. Oh, my dogs are going to howl. I don't know if you can hear that. Hopefully,
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Hopefully somebody quiets them. Oh, well.
But
Hey,
we can put out.
that's my dogs. That's Neo and Blythe.
we can just put out the group energy that, okay, well, the dogs are going to calm down because they now feel like everything's okay.
Yeah. So let's pick a card.
Are you going to pick another card? Okay.
Yeah, let's pick a card. This
Okay.
one, intuitive life coaching. Oh, look, spiritual teacher.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Step into your role as a spiritual teacher.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, and I opened up to the
Oh, that's always a good sign.
Role, but not spiritual teacher.
Oh.
Spiritual teacher is on the other side of the page.
Well, that's close.
That's close.
We'll go with that.
So it says you're being guided to step into your role as a spiritual teacher. And let's say that's true for everybody who listens to your podcast, because this is all part of awakening and growing and expanding. And there are a lot of people who are not at all open to this stuff yet.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody by allowing themselves to grow and expand is teaching, because it's putting it out into the collective.
This is true.
Whether you're actively telling people about stuff or not.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'll go even further, because I know that by me expanding into all that I do, my mom has totally changed.
You've talked about her, yeah.
And I know that it's the influence of my energy. Like, we can influence, we can't create for anybody.
Right.
By me holding this space and opening my awareness, it's actually allowed her to open her awareness and ask her own questions.
Which is cool. Because that's how the growth happens. The more people who feel free, who feel safe, I think I would even say, to try to do exactly that, then that's where we get more and more people raising their vibration.
Yeah. Okay, so it says you're being guided to step into your role as a spiritual teacher. You have a compassion for humanity. You have a deep love of life and of all beings of life. You spend most of your time uplifting the people around you. You fill them with hope, compassion, and love. You see beauty and good in everyone and everything. Nothing gives you more happiness than watching someone evolve and grow into their true self. You are a teacher of compassion and unconditional love. This card comes to you today to tell you that you are a spiritual teacher for you, even if you're not aware of it. You love children, people, animals, and nature. You also value honesty, equality, and love for all. Your guides and angels come to you today to tell you that you are worthy of stepping into your role as a spiritual teacher. Do not second guess yourself. Let go of all the fear. Hand it over to God and your guides and angels and ask for your highest good to unfold. The reason why you are so passionate about the well-being of others is because at the core of who you are a teacher of love and light. When you accept this and embrace this part of your true nature, your path will light up for you, making you finally feel at home in this world. You're meant to help heal and teach compassion and unconditional love. You'll find your own unique way to teach, and when you do, all will be right in your world. If you are already on your path as a spiritual teacher, this is your message from the angels and the guides. My dogs are loving this.
They are.
And you're right where you're supposed to be. So it says, go out into the world, shine your bright light.
Yeah, the chorus has definitely gotten involved here.
Yeah. They're saying, do it.
Do it. Do it now. Do it now. Yeah, I felt that card. I felt that one.
Yeah. And you know what? And everybody who listens to this show or any one of your shows is that.
I like that. That actually makes me feel jazzed.
You
that
are
idea.
A spiritual teacher. You know, if you have interest in the stuff that we're talking about, that you talk about in all of your shows, then you are definitely expanding into something more. And just by you expanding into something more, you open that up for other people to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
It really goes out into the collective. You know, it's not just us and however many hundred people are listening at this time, that
Mm-hmm.
goes out.
Mm.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good to hear that. I like that because that matches perfectly what my goal from the very beginning was for the show. To not just, it's not like I wanted to be the teacher. I didn't even feel qualified to be the teacher. I wanted to bring other people in who I thought were qualified, but I didn't really want to do that. But mainly, I wanted to inspire other people to also become teachers and keep spreading the word. And so that's the way I hear what you just said. That's what's happening. That our listeners are doing that. I think, whoa,
And you know
that's
what's
exactly
funny
what I
about
asked for.
that? Because just the other day, or I don't know, I don't think it was today. I think it was yesterday, maybe, or something. I don't know. Maybe I dreamt about it. I don't know where it came, but I was feeling like, you know, Walt should be coaching people. And you might say, but I'm not qualified as a coach or whatever. Yes, you are. This show is your qualification. How long have you been doing this for?
It's about 6 3/4 years now.
I mean, there are a lot of people who could benefit from having you as a coach for them. So anyway, just putting that out there because it came to me, and I don't know, maybe you have no interest in that, but it's out there in the universe. If you get contacted by people for that reason, no, there's something there.
Well, okay. I mean, the way I take that is I'm not actively looking to be a coach. I'm not actively looking to find and start a coaching business. If somebody comes to me, I'll tend to try to be helpful. If they want something a little bit more than just some casual advice, maybe I'll consider, doing something for a fee. But I see myself doing my coaching through the podcast and also through this audio play that we're putting together. It's one of the main reasons that Alyx and I are doing it, because we just love the idea of using a story to help people understand how all this stuff works.
Yeah. So, I mean, that could just be it. That could just be it right there.
Yeah.
This is your way of doing that because that's effectively what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah. And quite deliberately, I might add. When Alyx and I we've written the first episode, we've got part of the second episode. We have most of the outline written for the second episode, and we just added a really cool section. Oh my God, this is a great section. But as we're piecing this whole thing together, it is with the goal of helping people through the storyline to see how the law of attraction plays with each of the different characters, especially the main character, and how it keeps playing out in ways that the character doesn't even want it to play out because it's so annoying. All these things that I keep focusing on that I don't want to keep coming back to me, that kind of thing. And just showing how this stuff actively works in our daily lives, because we talk about it here on the show. We talk about how the law of attraction is always in play. I mean, you want to know what you've attracted into your life? Look around you. It's the entire life. You've attracted all of it. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing to say it in a story. And Alyx and I both love that idea a lot.
So are you and Alyx characters?
Alyx is actually going to be a character. Yeah, I decided I didn't really want to be a character. I'm more of the the person who wields the baton in the background, the producer type, right? I'm not even the director type. My sister's the director of the program. But no, I just like bringing all the talents together and mixing them all together and say, okay, do your thing. I want to see the show.
Yeah.
In fact, right now, Alyx and I are also the script writers. In the long run, I think Alyx probably wants to continue to be a scriptwriter. In the long run, I want to bring more people in to be scriptwriters. We basically established the theme. We established, okay, this is where we're going with the show, and this is what kind of development we see for the characters. But I'd like to see somebody else come in and take that and, take it in a new direction, take it into something really cool that we hadn't even thought of.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like a lot of shows that have different writers that write episodes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not always the same writer.
Very often it's the actors. Some of the shows that have gone on for years and years, the actors got involved, started writing the scripts, and wrote some brilliant scripts as a result.
That's right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if it gets to the point where it's doing that, I'll know we'll have a hit. I'll just know it. Not that I know it now. Alyx and I were talking about that the other day. This is one of the very few times in my life, probably the first time in my life, where I just know this is going to work. It's just, it has to. It's just working so beautifully the way it feels inside, and the way it feels when she and I and my sister are talking about it, and the people who have applied to be cast members and so forth. It just works.
So what's your target date for the first show?
Right now, We had originally hoped to have the first show done by the middle of the month, but we're at the middle of the month, so that didn't work. So right now we're aiming for about July 1st. And that's doable. I mean, part of this is realizing that we've never done this particular kind of thing before. I mean, my sister's done a lot of work in local theater, and that's where everybody's in one location and you can see everybody, and the director's saying, okay, you go here and you do this and do that and do that. You're all working in the same place. But with this, we're in all different locations. We're using the Zoom platform, but we're trying to coordinate doing everything on the Zoom platform and deal with things like, noises in the background and stuff like that. And write the thing as we're going along and do everything as a story that's pure audio where there's no visual at all. So you can never rely on a visual cue in order to tell the listener or the viewer what's going on. It's an entirely different thing. So we set a goal, but we don't really know what's going to happen. PJ was saying that to all the people we were interviewing for Cass. We think we have an idea of how this is going to work, but we don't know. We've not done this kind of thing before, So it's a new adventure and it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it'll just unfold how it's meant to unfold. I think the less pressure you put on yourself, the more you stay in that excitement, and it just happens.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what's been so easy about it. That I think more than anything else is why I've been getting this feeling that it's all working, because there isn't effort. I mean, there are times where you have to kind of just do stuff because it has to get done, but most of the time, the energy just carries us through.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Really, really cool. It's like, this is the way I want everybody to feel all the time.
Right. Yeah. So and then maybe that's the energy that this show will give out. Maybe that's its purpose.
That would be great. I'd like that. That'd be a good result. Speaking of which, before we run out of hour here, I want to remind everybody, this kind of thing is what we talk about on the podcast, but every single episode is a different episode. And I have different co-hosts for each of the different 5 days of the week. So you get diverse entertainment every single show. And in fact, the listener who wrote in today, Michael, that was the thing he liked the most. He made an actual note of saying, I have been looking for a long time for podcasts that really, fill my need and make me feel good. And I forget exactly what his criteria were, but he identified what it was. And he says, yours is it, because you have so many different people with so many things to talk about there. It makes it very interesting for him. I thought, cool. What we're doing is actually working for him. That's a great thing. I love that. So if you like what you're hearing here and you want to get more of this, become a subscriber. And it's really easy to do. Go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. All the instructions are right at the top. Just click there and it'll walk you right through it. And you'll be a subscriber. And then, of course, share the fact that you're subscribing so that other people can get their daily doses of happy. And make sure you also subscribe to us on the YouTube channel, because that's where you can actually see us as we're talking, which is kind of fun. And you can also, if you want to, if you're inclined to, you can tune in at the times when we are doing the live stream while recording it and participate in our live stream audience. So just go to YouTube, look for LOA Today podcast videos, click the subscribe button, click the little bell next to it. That way you get notified that we're live or that we posted something. And then just keep following along, because this thing is growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And also, we have sitting opposite me here a fabulous life coach and energy coach. I want to give her a moment to talk about what she does, in case because some people need to have that personal help, right? Sometimes you get into that place and you need somebody to get you out, or at least help you get out. That's where a life coach or an energy coach really plays a role. So how do they reach out to Linda Armstrong?
Yeah, so actually, we all need someone. It's hard to look at your own stuff.
Yes.
To be able, and especially, I'm an energy healer, so I can help lift the energy, the subconscious programming that's holding you back from moving forward, and help you with navigating this spiritual awakening. It's not always easy.
No.
You just go to my website, lovemylife.coach. Everything you want to know, you can find from there. You could even get over to my YouTube channel from my website, or you just find me, Linda Armstrong Energy Healer, on YouTube. I share lots of cool stuff there.
You do some of the best videos too. And your audience on YouTube is growing. I mean, you're on like an accelerated path right now, which is really cool.
I think you get to a certain point where it starts, taking off a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, it's very good. And you also have a tendency to pick topics. I mean, we've seen that here on the show. You pick a topic, and invariably we end up talking about the same topic, not through coordination, just because that's what we end up doing. So you have a knack for picking topics that match the energy of the people who are listening to your show. Not that you necessarily plan it that way, you just do it.
Right, because it's all energy.
It's all energy.
We were talking about that earlier. Energy comes into your awareness. So being that I'm an intuitive person, I kind of I kind of tap into the energy. I don't ever create a video unless I'm feeling like there's something needs to be said about this.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's following the guidance, following making the step of inspired action. That's what your videos are. That's good. So, well, thank you very much. This has been a fun discussion as usual. A nice way to set us up for the weekend. And I look forward to a nice weekend. I hope you have a great weekend too.
Thanks, Walt. You too.
And I'll see you next week. We'll see you all next time as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.